Welcome to the October show. It's Poets Have Something to Say, and we have a fantastic guest with us. Emilie Lindemann is the author of Ghosted Woman and the Electric Purple Pants from Freshwater Press, just out this year, by the way. Previous publications include a full-length poetry collection, Mother-Mailbox from Misty Publications in 2016, as well as several chapbooks, including Capsule Wardrobe for the End of the World, Dancing Girl Press back in 2019. Emilie teaches writing and communication courses at Lakeshore College and serves as a poetry editor for the Stoneboat Literary Journal. She lives on a dairy farm in Wisconsin with her husband, son, and border collie. Her days lined with lavender, chicory root, Queen Anne's lace, and red clover. Thank you, Emilie, for being part of the show. It's just an honor to have you on here.
Thank you so much, Jeff. Really glad to be here. I feel like whenever, as a writer, whenever you release a new book, it really means a lot that people are connecting with it and want to have a conversation about it. So thank you.
All right, sounds good. Well, first of all, if you have maybe a short poem you could share with us to start off the show.
I am glad to. I'm thinking actually the first poem, called Ghosted Woman, would kind of introduce the main character, who is sort of me. Ghosted Woman. Last seen wearing oversized sunglasses reminiscent of the mid-aughts. Last seen waving a brisk goodbye to the job that melted like coconut oil. Or is she more of a butter girl? Has she ever used lard? She likes other people's posts as if to leave croutons to the edge of some wooded area, her keystrokes hitting the screen in ghost time. She extracts unrequited emails and lets them dry out in a cool, dark place. Herbs waiting, no expiration, no best by date. When Gmail says, sent 7 days ago, follow up, she drifts under a pine tree, its branches extending over the sidewalk to the library. She finds a cart of philosophy books and feels the purple and deep blue spines and covers, feels her toes root-like, anchoring her to the tile floor of the library's vestibule. There is never a reply.
That's awesome. And I think you just have, my first impression when I read your work is that you have a marvelous way of mixing metaphor, and it takes creativity to another level. What is your creative process like? How do you? I mean, we're mixing concepts, and the imagery is quite amazing.
Well, thanks so much. I appreciate that. When you said metaphor just now, I just had a thought that the metaphors aren't intentional during the creative process. Like when I wrote a lot of these poems, I was, in the thick of it. It was pandemic times. My job that I had for 10 years had ended. I was working as an adjunct, feeling really isolated, as many of us were. Mm-hmm. So a lot of the poems I wrote just to, I know it sounds like over the top, but just to survive and get through the situation. I, had my journal and would, kind of to entertain myself, this idea of this ghosted woman character. So just writing snippets at a time, getting a lot of inspiration from the world around me. So maybe a lot of nature imagery in my poems. As I was working as an adjunct, one of the places was in person. So kind of pacing the campus nervously before class and kind of finding comfort in the nature imagery there.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. And I love to ask my different poets that I interview what their motivations are for writing. And they all seem to be a little bit different. Do you have a favorite time for writing? Do you write in the morning? Do you write in a certain area of the home or outside the home?
Yeah, a few different things pretty consistently in the early evening. So my husband is a dairy farmer, so in the early evening my son, who's a fifth grader, will be helping him feed calves during that time. So I'll just kind of get into a comfy spot in my home and have my journal and record some observations from the day, some thoughts. Sometimes my journals have visual elements. I don't really call myself a visual artist, but just kind of I'm not always that certainly trying to create poems in the moment, just kind of recording observations and thoughts. That's kind of what the process that works for me.
So let's take you back to when you were younger. What first drew you to poetry? When did you realize was okay, this is something that that I want to really seriously take on?
At a really young age, I think it was like the music of the language and kind of the excitement of being able to create something that would can resonate with others.
Mm-hmm.
Growing up, I shared a bedroom with my sister Bethany, who's a songwriter, and we had this notebook for a while. We were writing these kind of like funny poems and
Mm-hmm.
passing the notebook back and forth, and just kind of I don't know, just to kind of chuckle about it. And then I think got serious about poetry in college, taking different literature courses and creative writing courses, and kind of this feeling of, oh, like you can start with a blank page and some ideas and just create something that hopefully connects with other people and helps them feel less alone.
That's cool. I guess there's not like a time when you snap a finger and say, "Okay, I am a poet now." It's an evolving process, but it starts very young. I know when I was young, I think and it may sound funny to you, but the very first piece of creativity that was getting close to poetry and songwriting was my brother and I. We had this little Craig tape recorder. It was a reel to reel back in the '60s,
Mhm.
and we used to we used to make up radio commercials, like fake radio commercials that were very funny. And I think
Yeah.
that every kid has this imagination and then sometimes it spawns into writing, for sure. Our guest is Emilie Lindemann. Yeah, go ahead, Emily. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and I think the story you shared, I can really relate to that. Like, kind of like collaborating or like being creative with a sibling and kind of like inspiring each other through that playful or creative process.
Yeah, the playfulness has to be there, and that's something I see in your writing too. The playfulness. I like the direction that you're taking with Instagram. Maybe you could tell us a bit about that. Some of the videos that I think I might even. Yeah, I was actually watching. I think there was 3 of them that you released on Instagram with short poems and then visuals.
Yeah, that's been really exciting for me to, as I was preparing for the launch of this new chapbook from Freshwater Press, I was thinking of, making a book trailer, and then at first was going to be, chatting a little bit about the book and then reading a poem, and then really just decided to read a poem and kind of bring together some visual elements, whether a little bit of video, kind of homespun video, or like snippets of images from the world around me. And that, I think that was like another level of, I don't know if I want to say creativity, like
Mm-hmm.
having the chance to be like, okay, like what are some images that would work with this poem? And there's one poem called, what is it called? But it has some imagery of like pouting in a bathtub and thinking about the
Yeah.
feeling of being in a car wash. So I like
Yes.
went through a car wash and took some footage. And I think it was really cool to be able to think visually and then to have that sound element of how do I want to read the poem in a way that would hopefully connect with the listener.
And a lot of your poems too have this sliver of hope in them too, even though like you may be writing during pandemic times or
Yeah.
looking up at the stars, um, out in your flannel coat, looking up at stars. There was a feeling there that of hoping and wishing, uh, and a little bit of wonder in this world that's sometimes a little scary.
Yeah, it can be. Yeah, I was thinking back to that, and even when things looked and it felt really bleak, I feel like as an academic, sometimes like your job plays a really big role in who you are. So when
Mm-hmm.
things felt like, oh my gosh, like just this job is over, the school is going to be later learning, the school will be demolished. But just it was hard not to find hope in the world around me, and kind of like walking near Lake Michigan or in the creative process. There's a lot of hope there, a lot of.
Yeah, I was going to get to that too. And so you live, is that near Manitowoc where you reside?
Yeah, so I live in the country right between Manitowoc and Sheboygan, and the school that the college I had taught at for 10 years, is in Manitowoc slash was in Manitowoc. The music building still stands. It's a beautiful facility that's still used, but the college itself was demolished.
So tell me a bit about um, again, kind of looking at the writing process,
Yeah.
let's look at your revision. How do you, as far as editing, so you've got, let's say, maybe you've got something on paper that's kind of raw, then how do you go through that and edit that? What is your editing process like?
I think that's the most fun part. I always frame it as in my head, it's like, ooh, I'm going to be mining my journal. Like once, I don't know, there isn't always a certain point. Like once I'm like halfway through a journal or maybe some time has passed, I'm like, ooh, let me flip through this. And I actually underline lines from my journal or use post-it notes to mark the pages I want to come back to. And then I'll set aside some time to be working then on my laptop. And usually this will be more so in the morning. I think really clearly in the morning.
Yeah.
So I'll set aside some time to start playing with those phrases and snippets that I feel could work together as a poem to then compose something. And, that's the exciting part because I don't always know. Is it going to be a prose poem? Will line, what about changing up the line breaks?
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, once I have a draft of several poems, I will print them out and then edit them like in a very tactile way, like crossing things out, rewriting the lines. So I do really like relish the revision process or that in-between process.
I love how you just a few moments ago what you said about mining. You go back and it's like a gold mine of these raw
Yeah.
materials, right? You're using the analogy of mining these raw materials, and then okay, you've got tons of raw materials. Almost sometimes it feels when I'm writing, it's almost like I am trying to pour too much into one thing, right? So,
Oh, yeah.
so how do you like if you've got this monstrous, 2-page thing? How do you tame that? How do you tame that beast, so to speak,
Yeah.
and get it to be where you want it to be? Isn't that kind of what you're talking about here?
Yeah, it can be tricky. And I think intuitively, I often work in series of poems, like a lot of my past chapbooks, and of course, the full-length collection. I'm really drawn to. I'm not sure if it would be like poems that tell a story, or more accurate to say like poems that suggest a story. So
Mm-hmm.
it's usually not like a multi-page monstrous thing, but more so, looking at the notebook and looking at like several small or medium-sized poems kind of working together to suggest some sort of narrative. And that can be tricky because then sometimes I realize like, oh, this whole section doesn't need to be in this poem, or um, yeah, it can be, it takes some time to figure that out. Just recently, I've been working for a while in a collaboration with a visual artist, and the poems I had shared with her were very wordy and lengthy, and just realized like, whoa, what would happen if I would condense these majorly?
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of exciting.
Well, and collaborate. Do you find that you're collaborating more and more now, or how does that grow? I know I've collaborated with a singer-songwriter in England. You may have heard about Frank Watkinson, and
Um,
I've written 12, 13 songs with him. And
oh, cool.
so for me, it's kind of a music journey, and it's
Yeah.
sort of a growing journey of collaborating with more artists. Since with Frank, there's a couple other musicians around the country that have picked up my poetry and put it to song, and
Wow.
I guess we all find our own way of this collaboration itself. When we talk about collaboration, can be multifaceted, and you can kind of take it
Yeah.
in whether you take it in Instagram or you could actually collaborate, with each person reading or singing certain things. It's
Right.
endless. The creativity is endless.
What was it like then to hear a musician like put your poems to
Oh,
music?
it was just like magic. I mean, I remember
Wow.
well, I was going when I was actually way back when I was 63. It was a couple of years ago, but that was my most creative period. It's kind of a sad period for our family because my son Stefan was battling with some really tough health things. and he ended up passing away the next year. But we spent a lot. Thanks. We spent a lot of time in the hospital. But the 23 between I'd say between April and September of 2023 was my most productive songwriting time.
Wow.
And that's when I shared the bulk of my work with Frank. And so it kind of, where that personal tragedy,
Yeah.
it got the muses going even. And that's the wonderful thing about poetry is that and I've interviewed many poets. G. Anthony would agree, and Tom Cannon would agree that poetry can pull us out of the toughest situations.
That is so true. Yeah.
But it's not my show; it's your show. But
Okay. Yeah.
but so let's we're almost out of time. It's hard to believe. So
Yeah.
what kinds of questions are there themes that keep coming back? I know with nature. What
Yeah.
other themes keep coming back to you when you write?
Yeah, kind of finding comfort in nature, kind of like this themes of isolation and connection. And then some of my work sometimes deals with motherhood or, recent poems I've been writing. So I'm, how old am I? 41. So recent poems I'm writing kind of maybe explore themes of like middle age or aging and how we think of ourselves. So yeah, sometimes it'll be years of dealing with a theme, like for Ghosted Woman, really thinking about that isolation and connection and finding comfort in being creative.
Yeah, even with these deep dark thoughts of aging, we can dig down into that, but we can find hopeful thoughts as well. And I think that you do
Yeah.
that very well. I know one of the lines in one of your poems had to do with, I think my life might be half over.
Yeah.
You said it a lot better than that.
Yeah, the poem Trying, right? Yeah, that was
Yeah.
one of them that I created a poetry reel for on
Yeah.
Instagram. Had a lot of fun with that one.
So if somebody wants to check you out on Instagram, do you have
The
a way to
account?
find?
Yeah, it's Emilie Lindemann Poet on Instagram. So yeah, feel free to connect. And I always love seeing what other poets are doing as well. And yeah.
That's awesome. Where do we find, you have a website. What is the website?
The website is just my name, EmilieLindemann.com, and my first name is Emilie.
Oh, that's a cool way to spell Emily.
Yeah.
So people can find your work there and order your books through that website.
Yeah, I think the best way to order my new Ghosted Woman chapbook would be from Freshwater Press. So if you just search Freshwater Press LLC, and you can order a copy there.
That's awesome. I've heard a lot of great things about Freshwater Press. They do a great job. And just in the waning moments here, in just a moment, I might have you read just one more poem here for us. We're with Emilie Lindemann from the Manitowoc area, and poets have something to say. What are your thoughts for the future? What do you have, new projects or directions or goals or dreams? You're 41, which is still, in my
Yeah.
opinion, very young yet. You have a lot of your creative life to go. Where is that going to take you?
Well, currently working on a collaboration with a visual artist named Karen Lawton around the theme of home. That's evolving, and like I said, those poems about kind of middle age, and I'm always fascinated by this idea of time and time travel and idea of place. So I think I'll continue to explore those themes.
Okay, well, I had one more question that came from a listener of the podcast. They wanted to know where did you get the title of Ghosted Woman?
Oh yeah. So as I was applying for jobs frantically, right? Just this feeling of like never hearing back. It was a very long process. I would interview, go through a couple of rounds, really not hear back for a long time, check in and be like, oh, still interested and not hear back. And I think also during the pandemic, just any kind of delay in communication felt personal, like maybe a friend would take a few days to email me back, and this feeling of being ghosted, but also the feeling of turning into a ghost when that job was lost, and feeling like a ghost as an adjunct on campuses.
So there's so many layers to that. Thank you. And I wasn't quite sure either. But there's so many multiple layers to that, the ghosted term there. Well, can we, do you have a poem to take us out here today?
I do. I'm going to read Trying, the poem you
I
quoted from before.
I love that one.
Thank you. Trying. Last night I tried to see the northern lights, tried to appreciate stars in my plaid winter coat on the hill where my lavender plants hide under snow and dead leaves. Tried to find peace in the moment, my life only halfway over if I'm lucky. I ate some more cheese popcorn and then went back out to look at the stars. Tried to cherish every cell in my body, like the card I picked at yoga class advised. Tried to live generously, tried to avoid shopping too much, tried to remember to brush my teeth after eating oniony Greek pasta salad. Plaid winter coats only last until the fabric gives out, and even then, with a little mending, what is and isn't eternity? I try to walk to the woods with some regularity, swishing through a half-frozen mat of oak leaves and wondering, not worrying, what will come next.
Love it. We'll leave it on that note. Again, EmilieLindemann.com. You can check out all of your work. Thank you for being a great guest here on Poets Have Something to Say. We really appreciate your time. Good luck in the future. We'll maybe catch you down the road here to see how you're doing.
I really appreciate it. Thank you, Jeff.
All right. Thanks to Emilie Lindemann. Again, she's a very, to say the word proactive, I guess, is an understatement. Emilie does a great job on a number of levels. So thanks again to Emilie. Coming up on our November show, I'm trying my best here to get the Poet Laureate of New Zealand on the show, and I think we're going to get him for the November show. That would be Chris Say. So again, thanks so much for listening, and have a great day.